intruder comes in, bye-bye, buddy.
That say it's illegal to take someone's life.
Let's find out when it's appropriate to use lethal force. So today, Greg, we're gonna watch this video where someone uses a firearm. I know we've talked about this a little bit in the past. We were together, when were we together? I think we were together in June in California at VidCon, yes. And VidCon. we were talking about outside the restaurant about fist fights and when you can use a gun, and my position, and well, anyways, let's watch this video, and I'd love to get your thoughts on what transpired.
No, usted, huevón. Que a los niños ya me los tienen desconfiados. Déjeme en paz. A mí déjeme de que no me conozca a mí, huevona.
Oof.
That was horrible.
How many shots were fired?
I counted 9, and we see him with the gun right at the rear of the truck there before they came out. And it looked like he was either checking it to make sure it was ready, or he was readying the gun. I don't know if he was like actually loading it. And then I don't know if he was soft carrying it, just, not in a holster in his waistband, but then he put the gun, I'm guessing he probably just had it in his waistband.
It looks like it's premeditated, right?
I mean, there's an argument for premeditation. As you can see him, here he is. Is he taking the gun from her?
Okay, now he's checking his gun, right?
Yeah.
Does it make a difference, legally speaking, whether you shoot once or 9 times?
Well, yes, it does. Because, in a court, basically what they want to see is once the threat has ended, the lethal force stops. So if this was a justified shooting, the lethal or the aggression against the guy with the gun ended with that first shot, but he just kept following the guy as he was going down, and then it was like a couple, was it coup de grace shots? 9 shots. He was doing more than just trying to end the threat. He was getting rid of the threat forever, basically. But that's just one problem that he has, that there's not going to be any court that is going to find that as a justifiable shooting. None. There's just, the guy gets clocked one time with a fist and then he draws his gun and shoots the guy. That's not justifiable.
Well, that's what I understand. Like in Florida, they got, I believe it's called stand your ground law, right? So, because I once saw a video, and we could probably pull it up, where they're fighting over a parking spot, and the guy pushes him, he falls to the ground, he's on his back, and then he shoots the guy, right? So I almost feel like in the US, there's no such thing as a fist fight, right? If you throw a punch, get ready to potentially get shot.
Well, in order to use lethal force in the U.S., you have to be able to justify, prove that you are in imminent danger of a great bodily injury or death, or some other crimes like kidnapping, and then a crime that we're not allowed to say on YouTube, but it begins with an R. Those are all justifiable, but just a fist fight, no. They're like, say you're a 80-year-old man, 90-year-old man, and a 22-year-old man is coming after him and beating him down. That could be justifiable. If you're being beat down to where, and the person's not stopping, to where you're afraid you're going to lose consciousness or even get killed. You could articulate that and maybe win that in a court. But just a mere fist fight, you can't shoot people legally because of a fist fight. You can't. Here, like in California, believe it or not, and in a lot of other states, they have what's called the they refer to it as the castle doctrine, which if you're inside your home and someone forces entry into your home, it is implied that you're in danger, your life's in danger, and you could shoot somebody for coming into your house, like breaking into your home while you're there.
Well, I find that's pretty straightforward. For me, that's logical, right? Like, your home is your kingdom, right? But out on the street, imagine, I'm going to take the craziest scenario. Imagine someone's walking their dog and the dog takes a dump on someone's lawn, right? And a guy gets angry, and then there's a little bit of a shoving match. And as soon as he pushes him, the first person pushes the one receiving the push, would he be allowed to shoot the person who pushed him?
Like, we've talked about this before. Now we're talking about it on YouTube. You have to articulate that you've genuinely felt that your life was in danger before you can shoot somebody. You can't shoot somebody because they pushed you or shoved you or punched you. It has to be, again, a life-threatening situation or great bodily harm is imminent before you can use deadly force against someone else.
Now I'm just trying to play out another situation. Imagine there are two individuals, they're in an altercation, right? The first individual pushes the victim, the initial victim. The guy falls on the ground. He pulls out his gun and starts firing at the guy who did the initial push. But what happens if the initial person who did the push also has a firearm and he fires back? Then, like, who's actually the aggressor? Who's doing the self-defense? Do you see what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think, like, what happens when there's two individuals that both have a firearm and they both think they're in the right with regards to self-defense? Well,
you cannot use lethal force because you were pushed to the ground, but you can use lethal force to defend yourself against another gun.
Okay. So in that instance, the person who pulls out his gun towards the end is actually exercising his right to self-defense.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of little nuances that may come out in court, but, if you just want to be in black and white, if someone pushes you to the ground, you can't draw your gun and shoot them for pushing you to the ground. If someone draws a gun that you've pushed to the ground and is now shooting you, if you have a gun, you can defend yourself with that gun. Again, there may be like little other, like I said, nuances to the story that come out in a courthouse where things may change, but just if you're looking at that at face value, the guy that got pushed had no legal justification to shoot the other guy. Unless like the guy was maybe showing the gun and he was making claims like, I'm going to effing kill you, and he pushes him, and there's a gun there, then the guy who was on the ground could articulate, well, he clearly had a gun. He was displaying this gun. I saw it on his waistband. He made a statement that he was going to kill me, and then he pushed me to the ground. I genuinely felt my life was in danger, so that's why I drew my gun and shot him. You could argue that could be justifiable.
So I'm just thinking, like, imagine two individuals are driving on the highway, right? And there's a little bit of road rage, and one individual just pulls out the gun and says, I'm gonna effing kill you. The recipient of that threat, in theory, would be allowed to defend themselves with a firing back.
Let me ask you this question, Andrew. Okay, so if you saw somebody with a gun saying, I'm going to effing kill you or shoot you, whatever, would you believe that the person with the gun telling you that they're going to shoot you was going to shoot you? Would that be reasonable?
I guess it would be all the state of my state of my mind, but yeah, I would think that they might.
If someone has a gun and they're pointing it at you saying, I'm going to shoot you, what would be the first thought going through your mind?
My mind was like, I wish I had a gun to shoot back.
Yeah, exactly. So you've answered your own
Okay.
question.
Thank you for helping me work through the mental gymnastics.
Like I said, it's a very nuanced, very hot topic, and there's a lot of people that are, very much believe that all guns should be taken away and people should not have the right to carry guns and defend themselves with guns. And the argument to that is it legal to shoot somebody? Like, say, is it legal to kill somebody just because to kill somebody?
Absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely not.
If we take away the guns that people want to carry to defend themselves against that person that wants to take their life, it's only going to be the law-abiding citizens that are giving up their guns. Criminals, it's already illegal to take someone's life, right? It's already illegal. There's laws in the book that say it's illegal to take someone's life. So those same people that are capable of taking a life are not going to give up their guns. So it's going to be the law-abiding citizens that are unarmed. This is the argument for the advocates of, Second Amendment in the United States.
Well, I actually have a question for you. You're not allowed to be impaired to drive a car, but can you be impaired walking around with a gun?
No, that's a great question. If you get into a shooting, even a cop, in San Diego, if a police officer gets into a shooting, part of the investigation is they're going to do a blood draw on the officer and check for alcohol or drugs in that officer's system, right? And the same thing if a citizen shoots another citizen, during the course of the investigation, they're going to do a chemical test on the shooter to see if there's any drugs in the system. That could affect the case. If it's a righteous shooting, I don't think it would have that much of an effect, but I don't think it's wise to carry a gun. Honestly, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I'm guessing there may be some laws in the books about carrying a gun while you're under the influence of something, but off the top of my head, it's nothing I've ever had to deal with.
Because I'm just thinking, like, you can't be impaired, right? You can't be impaired driving a car. So why would you allow guns to be used by an impaired person? So imagine, I don't know, which states, you would know better, where can you have open carry? Did you know of off the top of your head?
Well, open carry, you're meaning carrying a gun exposed. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
I know Arizona used to be open carry.
So let's use Arizona as an example. So imagine I'm stone sober.
Believe it or not, California is an open carry state.
Oh, I did not know that.
But most of the cities in California have laws preventing you to open carry in the city. You know what I mean? So there was a big
So it's the
movement.
bylaws.
Yeah, exactly. Just local ordinances prevent people from doing that. But there was a big movement called Open Carry California a while back where guys were strapping up and going and just gathering. They weren't doing anything, but they were gathering just to kind of try to exercise their right to open carry in California.
So, but just say, imagine if you were working as a cop, right? If you weren't retired and you're out somewhere at a bar, right? And you see someone has his gun on the side and this dude or lady is wasted, had one too many tequila shots. Do you think as a police officer, you would have, one, the right, two, the obligation to say, I need to disarm this guy because this firearm could just go off at any moment, or he might lose his cool and hurt someone seriously,
It's a good question. There are laws against being drunk in public to where you're a danger to yourself or others, I guess, that you could exercise. if you felt that person, like it does definitely throw in another element. Again, I'd have to look into the laws. There may very well be laws in the book about carrying. I'm embarrassed right now that I don't know an answer for that. I know that I can legally carry a gun in all 50 states. Being a retired police officer, and there was a law signed in that allows me to still carry my gun concealed, and in all 50 states. The caveat is I have to do a qualification, a shoot once a year in order to maintain that privilege, that right. And if I'm going someplace where I know that I'm going to be drinking, I won't take my gun with me.
Well, let's take, again, another personal situation. Like, imagine you have a barbecue at your house, and some individuals have their guns on them, and you see one of your buddies, someone having one too many drinks. Would you feel comfortable with that person?
Well, if they're wasted, I would not feel comfortable. If they were just a little bit buzzed, and I mean, as long as they're not acting aggressive, I probably wouldn't feel uncomfortable. But yeah, if I saw somebody starting to, well, first of all, if they're at my house, I wouldn't let them get to the point where they were that intoxicated. You know what I mean? I think the host of a party has a responsibility to make sure that their guests aren't getting shit-faced. But to answer your question, if one of my buddies was having a little too much to drink, and I could see that it was starting to impair them to where maybe their judgment was a little bit impaired, I wouldn't have a problem saying, hey, let's put our guns away. You know what I mean? I know what your feelings are about carrying guns, and I know what my feelings are. And I think, again, we could go back and forth and I could justify the reasons why people should be allowed to carry firearms, and you could make as many arguments as why they shouldn't, and we're never going to come to 100% agreement. Let's just say that.
Well, we do agree on one thing. In your home, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah. Okay, well, let me ask you this. If say you and your family are out and about, and you're at a park, and say 3 bad guys, and maybe not even armed, grab your daughter and they're dragging her off, would you wish that maybe you had something a little bit more effective than your 2 hands to handle 3 guys that are trying to drag your daughter off?
Absolutely. But the thing is, I just hope I live in a society where the government and the police force, and there's
See, you're depending on the government and the police force too much.
No, I do get that, but I do believe I don't think there's any right or wrong way to deal with certain things, but I just look at other places in the world where there's less gun violence
and more hatchet violence and edged weapons violence.
Yeah, I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it. I strongly believe there needs to be a healthy middle ground. Like in Canada, it's crazy. You can't discharge legally your weapon in your own house, which I find absurd. So I really believe your house is your castle. You could do whatever you want. Intruder comes in, bye-bye, buddy. You know what I mean? You shouldn't come in. But out about on the street, I mean, I worked in the clubs, and I know a lot of hotheads that are bad drunks, and I could only imagine what would happen if they had a gun with them. Does that make sense? I know, I've seen the altercations certain guys have had in the bars and the clubs over the years, and mine is if they had a gun, these guys would be in jail by now. At least they got in a few fist fights, blue eye.
And I could make as many arguments to that if victims of homicides had guns, they would not be victims of homicides. Like I said, we can go back and forth all day long. There's a lot of people that are no longer with us who may be here had they, if they were armed and had the means of defending themselves. There's evil people in this world, and I've come across a lot of them who have no problems at all taking lives, or seriously injuring people just because. And I've been to a lot of homicides that it wasn't a gun used. I've been to a homicide where it was a skateboard that was used as the weapon. And I think that self-defense is just a very basic life, or a basic right that everybody should enjoy. I don't think it's a privilege to be able to defend yourself. And when I was a police officer, the ratio of cops, it was like 1.1 officer per 1,000 citizens. If you're depending on 911 to save you when it's going down, stand by to wait, because I'm not going to give 9 out of 10 or whatever, but quite often when the officers arrive at a call like that, it's going to be to take an investigation, to take a report, rather than to actually help somebody, because the crime's already occurred. Suspect's already gone. I think it's just a basic right to be able to defend yourself and defend your family. And it shouldn't be confined to your house. If I'm out somewhere with my family trying to enjoy ourselves, and then some thugs come up wanting to do harm to me, my wife, my son, I'm going to exercise my right to defend my family. I think it's a basic human right. And unfortunately, there are going to be some bad apples that that put a stain on that right. But I don't know. I mean, what's worse, giving up everyone's right because of a few people, a few bad actors? Again, this is the argument, and it's never going to be, no one's ever going to be satisfied with this argument of, like I said, the Second Amendment in the United States. But I have my beliefs, you have yours, and we're still friends.
Yeah, but isn't the point of the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, is to allow the population to build a militia to overthrow the government if they become tyrannical, correct?
Yeah, it's a deterrent to tyranny, but it's also just the basic right of self-defense, right? I mean, that's the major part of the Second Amendment. It's more to deter. I mean, we were ruled by King George, who was a tyrant, and it was to never allow that to happen again. And ironically, there was a Japanese general during, or it may have been an admiral during World War II, who they were, I guess, kind of talking about options, and that was one of the things that prevented them from even considering invading the United States. They said, if we did that, there'd be farmers popping up from every blade of grass with a gun, So, but again, I don't want to get into politics or anything in this podcast. But I guess we were there already. But anyway, hi.
Well, let's circle back to the initial video. In your opinion, do you think he did the right or wrong thing by pulling out that weapon?
That man committed murder. That was 100% unjustifiable.
And would you say it felt premeditated?
Well, there's definitely an argument for premeditation. I mean, I'd want to hear his statement. I'm not, like I said, that was definitely not a justified shooting. But his argument could be, well, we've been in this heated argument for months now, and I know Joe has a gun, and he was making some threats to take my life. So I was preparing just in case he did, come at me armed with a gun or some type of weapon. So that would be the argument there. But the prosecution could definitely use him. He's obviously, checking his weapon as he premeditated. He had plans of, again, taking the neighbor's life. But there was no justification there.
Well, to our viewers, let us know in the comments below if you think that was a justifiable use of force? If not, yeah, please let us know. I'm curious. Let us know. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe and check out these other great videos.